So the one we're going to do together first is here. 4x squared plus 2x minus 1 over x squared times x plus 1. You want to add this one in. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is, we would normally do is see if the bottom needs to be factored. There's nothing that needs to be factored, but this would be a repeated factor. So you want to identify that something has a power of 2 or 3 or whatever that would be repeated. So when I break this down into its fractions, it's going to be a over x to the first plus b over x to the second plus c over x plus 1. The repeated factor has to build up. Then I do the same next step, which is see what's missing from the denominator to the original one. So from x to x squared times x plus 1, what's missing? How many x's do I need? 2. So I'm missing an x, and I'm also missing the x plus 1. Now go to b. What's missing? The x plus 1. Now go to c. What's missing? The x squared. So now we ignore the bottom and we focus on just our numerators. 4x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals ax times x plus 1 plus b times x plus 1 plus c x squared. Now if I continued the way we did before, I would have plugged in x is 0, right? And I would have plugged in x is negative 1. But if I plug in 0, this one's going to go away and this one's going to go away. I'll solve for b. If I plug in negative 1, the b is going to go away and I'll have a and c. And there's no way to plug in a third number to figure it out. So you can't do that process. It won't cancel one out at a time. So we do what we ended yesterday with, which I know was a little bit rushed, but we're going to do that. We're going to actually FOIL out all the stuff on the right-hand side or distribute out all the stuff on the right-hand side. So this becomes ax squared. I'm going to distribute it to both. Plus ax. Then I'm going to distribute this plus bx plus b plus cx squared. And that's going to equal the 4x squared plus 2x minus 1. Now I'm going to group together every squared, every x to the first, and every constant. So the squareds are 4x squared on that side, and then ax squared and cx squared. I'm going to group those together. So 4x squared should equal ax squared plus cx squared. Then I'm going to do the same with x to the first. So 2x to the first on the left side of the equal sign is going to equal ax plus bx. And then the last one is your constant. Negative 1 is going to equal b. With me so far? Okay, now I'm going to cancel out all my variables because on the left, if I divide everything by x squared, all of them go away. I get 4 equals a plus c. In the middle, I'm going to divide everything by x. They would all cancel, and I get 2 equals a plus b. And at the end, I already know b is negative 1. Now I have an equation with an a and a c, an equation with an a and a b, and then an equation with just b. So I know b, what can I do with it? I can plug it into this one, and I can solve for a. So 2 equals a plus a negative 1. 2 would equal a minus 1, and a would equal 3. Now I have a. So I'm going to take a and plug it into the first one. 4 equals 3 plus c, and c equals 1. And then I plug them back in the original fractions. 3 over x plus a negative 1, so it's going to be minus 1 over x squared plus 1 over x plus 1. So you can actually do all the partial fractions like this. Like I could go back to the original ones that we did, and I could do it the same way by grouping the x terms and grouping the constants and then plugging them in as a system. But I think the method that I taught you is easier. That's why I teach it to you. But you can do this for all partial fractions. You cannot do what we did before with a repeated factor. You have to do it this way. Questions on the process? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll go back to the review. Yeah. Now multiply by what's missing. So A is missing what? Good. Another x and x plus 2. B is missing x plus 2. C is missing x squared. Then we do just our numerators. So 9x squared plus 3x minus 1 equals, I can distribute already, save myself a step. So ax squared plus 2ax. Then I go to B, distribute, bx plus 2b. And then I got C plus cx squared. With me so far? Now I grab my squareds. So 9x squared equals ax squared plus cx squared. 3x, grab your x's, 2ax and bx. So 3x equals 2ax plus bx. And the constant, -1 equals 2b. Get rid of your x and your x squareds, because they would all cancel. So I get 9 equals a plus c. Divide by x, 3 equals 2a plus b. And then -1 equals 2b. What's b this time? -1/2. Then I got to plug it in. I can't plug it into the first one. I don't have a b there, but I do have a b in the second one. So I'd get 3 equals 2a minus 1/2. You can multiply by 2 if you want to get rid of the fraction, or you can add the fraction plus 1/2. And I'd get 3 over 1 becomes 6 over 2. So 7/2 equals 2a. And then divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2. And I get a equals 7/4. And then I got to plug that one in. So 9 equals 7/4 plus c. Subtract the 7/4. 9 minus 7/4 is 36/4 minus 7/4, or 29/4. Now remember, when we plug these back in, like I'm going to plug them in as though they were complex. So 7/4 would go over x. Minus 1/2 would go over x squared. Plus 29/4 would go over x plus 2. But you cannot leave the complex fraction. So this could happen on your partial fractions one too, like on the one that's on the actual test, not a bonus. You can't leave them like that. All these denominators come down to the bottom. So it'd be 7/4x minus 1/2x squared plus 29/4 times x plus 2. And you can leave it on the outside. You don't have to distribute it. Like, don't waste the time doing that step. Leave it on the outside. Questions? Yeah. I mean, the good news is, like, of all the topic lists, this is the smallest because it takes so long to do them all. That's the bad news, okay? From 7.1 and 7.2, that was your systems of equation. That is on your quiz. I'm going to give you that back now. That is your systems of equation, in which you are going to be given systems of equation and have the option between substitution or elimination. Like, just like the quiz, I don't care how you solve it between those two. but there will be one in which you have to graph. So you'll graph the lines and then figure out where they cross, okay? Remember that the special cases are if they all cancel, you get no, and it's true, you'd get, I mean, it's all cancel and true, it's all real numbers, all cancel and false, it is no solution. And in those sections were the word problems that included your interest word problems, your break-even word problem, your geometric stuff like your perimeter, okay, that kind of stuff. No, I know. Yeah, no, it's literally just that. Yeah, this is, you can copy this down, but it's literally just this. And then in 7.2 was your equilibrium point 1. So all of that was on your quiz. Then came 7.3, which was also on your quiz, and this is your 3 variable where we did the new 1 and the new 2. So that will not be on your test. In its place comes the matrix stuff, because there's just not enough time to do both. The 3 variables where you did new 1 and new 2 is not on your test. Yeah. Okay. In its place comes your Gaussian elimination with back substitution, and then Gauss-Jordan.
So much questions is it?
How many questions? 12? 11.
Plus the bonus.
Plus the 11 plus the bonus.
What's the bonus?
The bonus. Rewind about 15 minutes ago, the thing I did when you were ignoring me. That was the bonus. Okay. The Gauss-Jordan, we talked about it yesterday, but it's going to be one question with your 3 variables and 3 equations that's going to say solve using Gaussian elimination with back substitution. You're going to get all the way through until the point that you have your diagonal of 1s with your zeros below, and then these are all going to be numbers. And then you're going to do your triangle system, and you're going to do the back substitution, and you're going to get an answer. And then the very next question says, take the row echelon form from the previous question, which is this guy, and then finish it out using Gauss-Jordan. So then you're going to work your way through to get the rest of the zeros. You should get the same answer twice. It's a way for you to check your work, okay? If you don't get the same answer twice, then you did something wrong, and then you freak out, and then you go back and you try to fix it. If you do this right the first time, like God is shining on you, people, it will be quick. It will be painless, okay? But most of us are not going to get it right the first time, which is why you need to make sure you watch your time. If you get to the end and your z is 132 over 4, something's wrong, unless that actually works out. So 132 over 3, we'll say. No, even that could still work out. Whatever, an answer that doesn't simplify. It's not going to happen, okay? I didn't make your makeup, but I promise you at least this test is going to have all whole numbers. So if you get to the end and your z is a fraction, you're going to immediately stop and try to retrace your steps and figure out where you went wrong, okay? This is the last question for credit. The extra one is the extra credit, like the one after it's the extra credit. So I would just say before you get to the point of stopping and starting again, make sure you finished everything else. Don't not get to a question because you made a mistake here. I'd rather you make a mistake here and get partial credit than skip other questions to try to get this right, okay? So that is a big thing. 1, be so careful when you're working through it. You've got to watch your signs, okay? 2, I'm going to let you use a scientific calculator just like the last time. It cannot have matrices on it. So if you have a question, like your standard ones, the ones you use for geometry honors is fine. The TI, whatever, is fine. The other, like your 4 function, totally fine. But there are some that have an FX in their name. Those you cannot use because they have matrices on there. So if you have a question, bring it to class with you tomorrow. And I would say practice with it tomorrow and you'll know for sure, okay? Questions on content. Okay, I'm going to give you back your quizzes. This did not happen on your quiz, but your break-even word problem, which was, what number is that? It was the first one, right? The first word problem?
4.
Number 4. Asked you to find the number of units in which you would break even, right? And when we taught it, we went over the importance of knowing what to round there, because if you have a 400.1 and you round down, you have not broken even. Okay, if it happens on your test, it didn't happen on your quiz because it was a nice whole number. If it happens on your test, you have to remember to round that number up, okay? Because break even, you always round up. The rest of them should not be an issue. But on that, it can be a decimal and you have to round up, okay? Any questions on your quiz? I would say most of you, it was like a silly mistake. It wasn't that you totally didn't know what you did. The equilibrium one, some of you did not solve for both the number of units and the price per unit. It was in the instructions. It says it in there. You have to solve for both. Some people just like made a mess of like the interest problems, but overall, it wasn't like one specific thing missed. So this quiz plus the partial fraction, one that's on your test, a regular partial fraction, one bonus repeated factor one, and the Gauss-Jordan and the Gaussian elimination is what's on yours. So topic-wise, it's small because these the problems take so long. So you have what, 20 minutes. You need to open up that PDF. My advice is to start with the Gauss-Jordan ones and the Gaussian elimination. Practice one of those, okay? So obviously we wrote out the matrix. from this point, you're going to write it into a triangle system. So I get x minus 2y plus 3z equals 9, y plus 3z equals 5, and z equals 2. Then I take the 2, I plug it in. I get y plus 3 times 2 equals 5, y plus 6 equals 5, and y equals negative 1. And then I take the z and that and plug it back in. X minus 2 times negative 1 plus 3 times 2 equals 9. X plus 2 plus 6 equals 9. X plus 8 equals 9. And x equals 1. So 1, negative 1, 2 is what I would put on the answer. And that's the one. This sucker's 18 points. Okay? I'm not saying if you get a negative wrong in the beginning that literally you carry down, I'm going to dock you all the points. But you have to, 1, write out every step what you're doing. 2, show your work. Like if you skip steps, there will be no mercy points. You have to show the work.
Wait.
Yeah.
So you know, if you do something like R2 minus R1, do you have to write you're doing R2 minus R1, or can you just do it?
You're going to write it. I promise you that the smartest people on the planet make mistakes when they try to do this stuff in their head. Just write it.
Wait, what if like...
Fight the urge to be lazy and just write it. All right, now then the next question is going to say rewrite the row echelon form, which is this, and then finish it using Gauss Jordan. So I want my other zeros. So if I want to get a 0 where the 3 is, I'm going to do negative 3, row 3 plus row 2. So I get 0, 0, negative 3, negative 6, 0, 1, 3, 5. 0, 1, 0, negative 1. And that's row 2. 1, negative 2, 3, 9.
Wait, what? Do you have to use the bottom?
That one you have to use the bottom, or you're going to lose the 0. So if you use these 2, you lose this 0. You have to use row 3 with that one. And then when I go to find that spot, when I try to get that spot, I have to use row 3. Like your page, you're stuck. You have to use row 1 and 3 here because there's nothing I can make change a 0 to cancel with the 3. So then I do negative 3, row 3 plus row 1. 0, 0, negative 3, negative 6 plus row 1. No. Hang on. That's row. Sorry. Sorry. I wanted it to be right. You were so excited. All right, now I need a 0 here. That's the last one. So I'm going to do positive 2, row 2 plus row 1.
But it kind of could be right.
I mean, in theory, anything could.
Okay, so this is what I did. I did 2.
And hang on, sorry. This is my last row. I'm almost done. Sorry. 0, negative 1, 0, 0, 1, 2. Okay? And you should get the same answer twice. Like, obviously, these should match these because the answer should be the same no matter what method you use.